At my son's birthday, my mother announced, "We're not acknowledging him as family." I'd been funding her boutique for 3 years. Monday morning, she found the locks changed and an eviction notice. I never thought I'd be writing this, but I need to get this off my chest because what happened at my son's 8th birthday party last weekend was so unbelievable that I'm still processing it. I'm Kimberly, 34, female, and this whole mess involves my ex-wife Diana, 32, female, my son Tyler, 8, male, and the most toxic family dynamics I've ever experienced. Let me start from the beginning because the birthday party disaster was really just the culmination of 3 years of me being played like a fiddle. Diana and I divorced when Tyler was 4. The marriage had been rocky for a while, mainly because Diana's family never accepted me. I'm mixed race, black and Puerto Rican. Grew up in a working-class neighborhood in Detroit. Diana's family is old money from Connecticut. Her father owns 3 country clubs. Her mother sits on charity boards, and they live in one of those massive colonial houses with circular driveways and manicured lawns that look like something out of a magazine. From the moment Diana brought me home during college, her family made it clear I wasn't good enough. Subtle at first. Backhanded compliments about how articulate I was, surprised looks when I knew which fork to use at their fancy dinner parties. Her mother, Patricia, would introduce me to their friends as Diana's friend from school, even after we'd been dating for 2 years. The worst was Diana's younger brother, James, 28, male. This guy made it his personal mission to remind me I didn't belong. He'd ask me about my urban background, like I was some kind of sociology experiment. Always wanted to know if I played basketball or if my family was musical. You know those coded questions that aren't quite racist enough to call out, but make you feel like garbage. Still, Diana and I made it work for a while. We moved to Chicago after college, got our own place, started building our lives together. Diana was working in marketing. I was doing well in software development. When Tyler came along, things were actually good for a couple years. We were our own little family unit away from her toxic relatives. But then Diana's maternal grandmother died and left her a significant inheritance. Not just money, but property in downtown Westchester, a prime location that had been in the family for generations. That's when everything changed. Suddenly, Diana was talking about moving back to Connecticut, being closer to family, wanting Tyler to grow up around his grandparents. The inheritance gave her the confidence to make demands I couldn't match. She wanted the big house, the country club lifestyle, the whole upper-class package. I tried to make it work. We moved to Connecticut. I took a remote position with my Chicago company. We bought a house in Westchester that was way more expensive than anything I would have chosen. But being back in her family's orbit was poison for our marriage. Patricia would drop by unannounced, always with some comment about how I was probably struggling to adjust to their neighborhood. James would come over for family dinners and spend the whole time talking about his job at the family business, making sure everyone knew he was being groomed to take over. The final straw came when Tyler was 3 and Diana started talking about enrolling him in this exclusive private school where her family had connections. The tuition was $40,000 a year for preschool. When I said we couldn't afford it, she said she'd use her inheritance money. That led to this huge fight where she basically said I was holding Tyler back, preventing him from having the opportunities he deserved. She said if I really loved my son, I wouldn't let my pride get in the way of his future. The way she said my pride, like wanting to contribute to my child's education, was some kind of character flaw. We divorced 6 months later. Here's where it gets complicated. Diana got primary custody, which I was bitter about, but understood given her family's legal connections and the fact that she could provide the stable home environment in Tyler's current school district. I got him every other weekend and half the holidays. The custody arrangement was hard enough, but what really killed me was watching Tyler at his mom's family gatherings. Diana remarried pretty quickly to some hedge fund guy named Bradley, 36, male. And suddenly, Tyler had this new stepfather who came from the same world as Diana's family. Bradley was everything I wasn't. Tall, blonde, went to the right schools, played golf with Patricia's husband, fit seamlessly into their world. Within a year of their marriage, Diana was pregnant with their first child together, my son's half-sister, Sophia. That's when I started noticing how differently Tyler was treated at family events. I'd drop him off for Christmas dinner and pick him up hearing stories about how Sophia got all the attention, how the grandparents spent the whole time fussing over Bradley's daughter while Tyler sat by himself. Patricia would buy Sophia expensive toys and give Tyler books or educational gifts, the kind of presents adults give kids when they're trying to improve them. Tyler started asking me questions I didn't know how to answer. Why didn't Grandma Patricia hug him the same way she hugged Sophia? Why did Uncle James always talk to Bradley about business but never ask Tyler about school? The worst part was Diana seemed oblivious to it, or maybe she just chose not to see it. She was so happy to be back in her family's good graces, so relieved to have a husband they approved of, that she didn't notice her son being treated like a second-class citizen in his own family. That's when Diana came to me with the boutique idea. It was about 3 years ago, right after Tyler turned 5. Diana had always been into fashion, had good taste, and with her family connections, she thought she could make a high-end boutique work in downtown Westchester. The inheritance money was tied up in investments, and Bradley was hesitant about her using their joint finances for what he called a hobby business, so she came to me. She sat in my living room looking beautiful and vulnerable the way she used to when we were married, explaining how this boutique was her dream, how it would give her independence, let her contribute financially to the family. Show Tyler that women could be entrepreneurs. She needed $50,000 to get started. Lease deposits, initial inventory, renovations, marketing, the whole package. She'd researched everything, had a business plan, promised she'd pay me back within 2 years once the business was profitable. But here's the kicker. She specifically asked me not to tell her family about the loan. They wouldn't understand, she said. God, they'd see it as charity, or think you were trying to buy your way back into Tyler's life. It's better if they think I'm funding this myself. I should have seen the red flag there, but I was thinking about Tyler. If his mom was successful and happy, maybe she'd be more confident around her family. Maybe she'd stand up for him more. Plus, $50,000 wasn't going to break me. My software consulting business was doing well. I lived modestly, and I wanted to help the mother of my child succeed. So, I wrote the check. The boutique, called Curated by Diana, opened 8 months later in this gorgeous space downtown. Exposed brick walls, hardwood floors, carefully selected inventory of designer clothes and accessories. Diana had an eye for it. I'll give her that. The store looked like something out of a fashion magazine. Business was slow at first, which is normal for retail, but Diana kept coming back for more money. The display cases needed to be replaced. The lighting system wasn't working properly. She needed to attend trade shows to find new vendors. The insurance was higher than expected. Each request came with detailed explanations and promises to pay me back. Each check I wrote was supposed to be the last one. By the end of the first year, I'd invested nearly $80,000. Year 2 was when things got weird. I started hearing from Tyler about how Grandma Patricia was always talking about what a smart businesswoman his mom was, how Uncle James would bring his friends by the store to show off his successful sister, how Bradley was so proud to have such an entrepreneurial wife. Diana's whole family was taking credit for her success, acting like they'd been supportive from the beginning. Meanwhile, I was still writing checks every few months for various business expenses. New inventory for the spring line, a point-of-sale system upgrade, marketing costs for the grand reopening after renovations. But whenever I asked about getting paid back, Diana had excuses. The business was growing, but hadn't turned a profit yet. She was reinvesting everything back into inventory. The second year was always the hardest for new businesses. I might have been okay with all of that if Tyler's situation had improved, but it was actually getting worse. Diana had another baby with Bradley, a son they named Harrison. Now Tyler was not just competing with Sophia for attention, but with a male heir who shared Bradley's last name and bloodline. The family photos from their Christmas parties looked like stock images of the perfect white family, with Tyler awkwardly positioned on the edge, like he'd been photoshopped in. Tyler started having problems at school. His teacher called to tell me he'd been getting into fights, talking back to authority figures, showing signs of what she called displaced anger. The school counselor suggested he might be struggling with feeling like an outsider in his blended family. When I brought this up with Diana, she got defensive, said Tyler was just going through a phase, that all kids act out sometimes. She didn't want to hear about how her family's treatment might be affecting him. That's when I made my first mistake. Instead of confronting the real issue, I threw more money at the problem. Diana mentioned that Tyler had been asking for a big birthday party, the kind his half-siblings got. 8-year-olds notice when their little sister gets a princess party with a pony, and they get taken to Chuck E. Cheese. So, when Diana said she couldn't afford the kind of party Tyler wanted because all her money was tied up in the boutique, I offered to pay for it. This is where I need to explain something about Diana's family dynamics, because it's crucial to understanding what happened at the birthday party. Patricia and her husband Richard have this very specific way of operating. Everything is about image and control. Their love is conditional, based on whether you're reflecting well on the family name. They don't see Tyler as truly part of their family because he's not biologically connected to them, and his mother, me, doesn't meet their standards. But they can't just openly reject an 8-year-old child without looking like monsters. So instead, they do this subtle thing where they acknowledge Tyler's presence but don't fully include him. He gets invited to family events but gets less attention. He receives gifts but not the expensive ones. He's in the family photos but positioned where he could be easily cropped out. Diana has been complicit in this treatment because calling it out would mean confronting her parents, risking her position in the family she fought so hard to return to. It's easier for her to pretend it's not happening than to rock the boat. So, when I agreed to pay for Tyler's birthday party, I thought I was solving the problem. Diana could throw him the celebration he deserved, show her family that Tyler was just as important as their other grandchildren, and maybe things would improve. The party was planned for last Saturday at Diana's house. I'd contributed $3,000 to cover everything. A bounce house in the backyard, a catered lunch, professional decorations, a magician, and a custom superhero cake, since Tyler's been obsessed with Spider-Man lately. I was allowed to attend since it was Tyler's birthday, even though these family gatherings usually excluded me. Diana made it clear this was a special exception and I shouldn't expect to be included in future events. I showed up at noon with Tyler's present, a mountain bike he'd been wanting for months. Diana's house was decorated beautifully, the backyard transformed into this amazing party space. Tyler was running around in his Spider-Man costume, grinning from ear to ear. For the first time in months, he looked genuinely happy. The guest list was interesting. Tyler had invited 6 kids from school, plus his half-siblings. Diana's family was there in force. Patricia and Richard, Uncle James with his wife and their baby, even some family friends I recognized from previous gatherings. Bradley was playing the perfect stepfather role, making sure all the kids were having fun. Everything was going great for the first hour. Tyler was the center of attention. The other kids were enjoying the bounce house. The magician was a hit. I was actually starting to think this might be a turning point, that Tyler's family would see him as worthy of celebration. Then it was time for presents. Tyler opened gifts from his school friends first. Age-appropriate stuff, video games, action figures, art supplies. He was polite and excited about everything. Then he opened presents from his half-siblings, cute homemade cards, and small toys they'd picked out with their parents' help. But when it came time for gifts from his grandparents and extended family, the contrast was impossible to ignore. Patricia and Richard gave Tyler a savings bond, a $100 savings bond, that he couldn't access until he was 18. They presented it like they were doing him a huge favor, talking about the importance of financial planning and delayed gratification. Meanwhile, just 2 weeks earlier, I'd heard from Tyler that they'd given Sophia a pony for her 6th birthday. An actual pony with riding lessons and equipment that probably cost more than most people's cars. Uncle James gave Tyler a subscription to National Geographic Kids and a book about college preparation for an 8-year-old. The family friends followed suit, giving Tyler practical gifts like school supplies and educational games, while telling him how lucky he was to have such thoughtful relatives who cared about his future. Tyler handled it well initially, saying, "Thank you for everything." But I could see his face falling with each practical gift. He kept glancing over at the pile of expensive toys Sophia had received at her party, which were still visible through the back door. But the real shock came when it was time for the birthday song. We all gathered around Tyler as Diana brought out his custom Spider-Man cake. It was beautiful, probably cost me $200, with detailed decorations and his name spelled out in his favorite colors. Everyone started singing Happy Birthday, and Tyler was beaming, back to being excited about his special day. As the song ended and Tyler was about to blow out his candles, Patricia cleared her throat loudly. The whole party went quiet. Patricia stood up, wine glass in hand, like she was about to make a toast, and announce to the entire gathering, "Before we continue with the celebration, I think it's important that we address something as a family." Diana immediately looked uncomfortable. Bradley stepped closer to her. Tyler was still standing over his cake, confused about why everyone had stopped singing. Patricia continued, her voice carrying that authoritative tone she uses when she's about to lay down the law. "Bradley and Diana have built a beautiful family together, and we're so proud of their children, Sophia and Harrison. These are our true grandchildren, the ones who will carry on our family legacy." I felt my stomach drop. Tyler was still standing there, candles burning on his cake, listening to his grandmother continue. "Now, Tyler is a nice boy, and we're happy to include him in family gatherings because he's part of Diana's life. But let's be honest about what he is and what he isn't. He's not really our family. We're not acknowledging him as a true family member, just as Diana's child from a previous relationship, whom we tolerate out of politeness." The silence that followed was deafening. 25 people, including 6 8-year-olds, just staring at this woman who had publicly disowned a child at his own birthday party. Tyler's face went through several emotions: confusion, hurt, and then this terrible understanding as he processed what his grandmother had just said. The candles on his cake kept burning while he stood there, realizing he'd just been formally rejected by his own family. That's when I lost it. I'd been standing in the background trying to stay out of the way, but I couldn't watch my son be humiliated like that. I walked over to Patricia and, in my calmest voice, said, "You want to know what's not family behavior, Patricia? Taking money from the person you're insulting." She looked confused. "Excuse me?" "The boutique," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Curated by Diana. You know, the business you're so proud of Diana for building, the one you brag about to your friends, the one that made James think his sister was such a successful entrepreneur." Diana's face went white. She knew where this was heading. "I funded that boutique, Patricia. Every penny. 50,000 for startup costs, 30,000 more for renovations, 15,000 for inventory, 10,000 for marketing, 20,000 for equipment and fixtures. Diana's been paying the lease with my money for 3 years." The entire party was listening now. Patricia's mouth fell open. James looked like someone had punched him. Bradley was staring at Diana with an expression I'd never seen before. "So when you talk about not acknowledging Tyler as family," I continued, "remember that your successful daughter built her dream business with money from the mother you think isn't good enough for your family." Patricia tried to recover. "That's Diana never mentioned. I'm sure there's an explanation." "The explanation," I said, pulling out my phone, "is that I have 3 years of bank records showing payments to Curated by Diana LLC. I have text messages from Diana asking for money and promising to pay me back. I have receipts for every deposit I made into her business account." I turned to Diana. "Did you tell your family I was funding the boutique?" Diana couldn't speak. She just stood there shaking her head. "Did you tell them I paid for this party? The bounce house, the catering, the decorations, the cake Tyler's standing over right now?" More head shaking. I looked around at the assembled family. "So let me get this straight. You've all been celebrating Diana's success and independence while she was secretly depending on financial support from the woman you won't acknowledge as part of your family. You've been bragging about her business acumen while she was using my money to pay her bills. And now you want to humiliate my son at his own birthday party." Tyler was still standing by his cake, but now he was watching me with this expression I'd never seen before. Not embarrassment or confusion, but pride. His mom was finally standing up for him. Patricia tried to maintain her composure. "Kimberly, this is hardly the time or place for this kind of discussion." "Actually, Patricia, this is exactly the right time and place because you just announced to a room full of people that you don't consider Tyler family. So I'm announcing that as of tomorrow, you won't be getting any more family money from me." I walked over to Tyler. "Happy birthday, son. Blow out your candles and make a wish." Tyler looked up at me and whispered, "Can I wish for us to leave?" "You don't need to waste a wish on that," I said. "We're leaving right now." I picked up Tyler's presents, took his hand, and walked toward the door. As we were leaving, I heard Diana calling after us, but I didn't turn around. In the car, Tyler was quiet for a while. Finally, he said, "Mom, does this mean I don't have to go to family parties anymore?" "Not if you don't want to," I told him. "Good," he said. "Those parties were stupid anyway." That was Saturday. On Monday morning, I drove to downtown Westchester and had a very productive conversation with Diana's landlord. See, here's something Diana never realized about her boutique location. The building owner, Mr. Chen, is a client of mine. I've been managing his property management software for 2 years. When Diana was looking for retail space, I actually recommended the location to her because I knew Mr. Chen was a fair landlord who maintained his properties well. What Diana didn't know is that her lease has a clause allowing the landlord to terminate with 30 days' notice if the tenant defaults on payment. And Diana has been consistently late on rent for the past 8 months, always coming up with the money at the last minute, but never on the actual due date. Mr. Chen had been lenient because he knew she was connected to me, but he'd been getting frustrated with the late payments and unprofessional communication from Diana's business manager, who turned out to be James. So, on Monday morning, I explained to Mr. Chen that I would no longer be providing financial support to Diana's business. I showed him the payment history, demonstrating that Diana had been using my money to cover her lease. I explained that without my continued investment, Diana would likely default on future rent payments. Mr. Chen thanked me for the heads up and said he'd handle the situation appropriately. By noon on Monday, Diana was calling me frantically. "Kimberly, what did you do? The landlord served me an eviction notice. He's terminating my lease and changing the locks. He says I have 30 days to vacate." "I didn't do anything," I said calmly. "I just stopped doing something. I stopped paying your bills." "You can't do this to me. The boutique is my livelihood. It's how I contribute to my family." Patricia made it very clear at Tyler's birthday party that I'm not family, Diana. So why would I keep funding your family's success? That was just Patricia being dramatic. You know how she gets. No, Diana. That was Patricia being honest. And now I'm being honest too. I'm done funding your boutique. I'm done paying for parties your family uses to humiliate my son. I'm done being your secret banker while your family treats me like I'm not good enough to breathe their air. Diana started crying. "Please, Kimberly, I'll pay you back. All of it. I just need time." "With what money?" "Your boutique has never turned a profit, Diana. The only reason it stayed open is because I kept writing checks. Now that the money's gone, the business is gone too. My family will help. Bradley will." Bradley just found out his wife has been taking money from her ex for 3 years without telling him. How do you think he feels about that? There was silence on the other end of the line. "You made your choice, Diana. At Tyler's birthday party in front of your son, you let your mother announce that he wasn't really family. You stood there and watched her humiliate an 8-year-old child, and you said nothing. So now you get to live with the consequences." "What about Tyler? He's going to be affected by this too." "Tyler's going to be fine. He's going to live with a mother who puts him first instead of a family that treats him like a burden. Speaking of which, I'm filing for modified custody. I want primary custody of Tyler, and given what happened at his birthday party, I think any judge will agree that your family environment isn't healthy for him." Diana hung up on me. Tuesday, I got a call from James. "Kimberly, we need to talk. This situation with Diana's boutique is affecting the whole family." "How is it affecting you, James?" "Well, Diana's upset, which is upsetting our parents. And Bradley's asking a lot of questions about family finances. It's creating tension." "Good. Look, maybe we can work something out. What if Diana paid you back on a payment plan? What if the family helped contribute to the boutique expenses going forward?" "Where was this family contribution for the past 3 years, James? We didn't know Diana needed help." "You didn't know because you didn't want to know. You were happy to take credit for her success without asking how she was funding it, just like you were happy to treat Tyler like an outsider without considering how that affected him." "The Tyler situation is complicated." "No, it's not. You treated an innocent child badly because his mother doesn't meet your standards. There's nothing complicated about that. It's just cruel." James sighed. "What do you want from us, Kimberly?" "Nothing. I don't want anything from your family ever again. That's the point." Wednesday, Patricia called. "Kimberly, I think we got off on the wrong foot at Tyler's party." "Did we, Patricia? Because it seemed like you were pretty clear about how you feel about Tyler and me." "I may have spoken harshly. It was a stressful situation, and I had been drinking wine." "You humiliated my son at his own birthday party, Patricia. There's no excuse for that. Perhaps we can move past this." "For Tyler's sake, moving past it would require you to genuinely accept Tyler as your grandson and treat him the same way you treat Sophia and Harrison. Are you prepared to do that?" Silence. "That's what I thought." Thursday, Bradley called. "Kimberly, I owe you an apology." This surprised me. Bradley had never called me directly before. "I had no idea Diana was taking money from you. If I had known, I would have insisted she pay you back immediately." "What did you think was funding the boutique, Bradley?" "Diana told me she was using her inheritance money and reinvesting the profits. I trusted her to handle her own business finances." "So you never asked to see the books? Never wondered why a boutique in downtown Westchester was profitable enough to support itself from day one?" I should have. I realize that now. How are things at home? Complicated. Diana's been dishonest with both of us, and I'm trying to figure out what that means for our marriage. But that's not why I'm calling. Why are you calling? I want to apologize for my role in how Tyler's been treated. I've been so focused on fitting into Diana's family that I didn't stand up for him when I should have. That was wrong. This was not what I expected to hear from Bradley. I appreciate that, Bradley. I also want you to know that I support you seeking primary custody. Tyler deserves to be in an environment where he's valued and protected. Based on what happened at his birthday party, that's not Diana's house. Thank you for saying that. I'll testify on your behalf if needed. What Patricia did was inexcusable, and Diana's failure to stop it was equally bad. Friday, Diana called one more time. The boutique closed today. I had to liquidate everything. I'm sorry to hear that. No, you're not. You're happy about this. I'm not happy about it, Diana. I'm indifferent to it. There's a difference. 3 years of my life, Kimberly. 3 years building something I loved, and you destroyed it in 5 minutes. I didn't build your boutique, Diana. I funded it. There's a difference there, too. What am I supposed to do now? The same thing Tyler's been doing his whole life. Figure it out without your family support. You're being cruel. No, Diana. Cruel is letting your mother humiliate your son at his birthday party. Cruel is taking money from someone while your family treats them like garbage. Cruel is lying to your husband about your business finances for 3 years. I never meant for any of this to happen, but you let it happen. Every single time your family treated Tyler badly, you let it happen. Every time you took my money, you chose not to tell them where it came from. You made those choices, Diana. Now you get to live with them. It's been 2 weeks since Tyler's birthday party. The custody modification hearing is scheduled for next month. My lawyer says we have an excellent case, especially with Bradley's willingness to testify about the toxic family dynamics. Tyler's been staying with me full-time since the party. He seems happier, more relaxed. He's not asking questions about why his grandparents don't love him or why he doesn't get the same presents as his half-siblings. He is just being a normal 8-year-old kid who doesn't have to worry about fitting into a family that never wanted him anyway. Diana's been calling every few days, alternating between anger and desperation. The boutique closure has apparently caused major problems in her marriage. Bradley is questioning other aspects of their relationship, wondering what else she's been dishonest about. Patricia and Richard are furious that their daughter's business success was built on money from the woman they publicly rejected. James actually showed up at my house last weekend wanting to discuss terms for Tyler's continued relationship with Diana's family. I told him the only terms I'm interested in are full custody and no contact with people who treat my son badly. You're going to keep Tyler away from his mother? He asked. No. Diana is welcome to have a relationship with Tyler, but not at your parents' house, not at family gatherings where he's treated like an outsider, and not as long as your family refuses to acknowledge him as an equal grandchild. That's not reasonable. What's not reasonable is expecting me to expose my son to people who publicly announce they don't consider him family. James left without saying anything else. I don't know how this story ends yet. The custody hearing is still pending. Diana's marriage might not survive her dishonesty, and Tyler's still processing what happened at his birthday party. But I know one thing for certain. I'm done funding people who don't respect my son. Tyler deserves better than a family who treats him like a charity case. He deserves better than grandparents who give him savings bonds while buying his half-siblings ponies. He deserves better than a mother who will take money from his mother while allowing her family to humiliate him. Some people might think I was vindictive, destroying Diana's boutique over a comment at a birthday party. But it wasn't just one comment. It was 3 years of taking advantage of my generosity while treating my son like he didn't matter. It was years of watching Tyler struggle to understand why he wasn't loved the same way as his half-siblings, while secretly funding the lifestyle that excluded him. Diana's family spent Tyler's entire life making it clear that he wasn't really one of them, so I made it clear that I wasn't really one of them either. And if you're not family, you don't get family money. The boutique closure was just business. Patricia announced that Tyler wasn't family, so I stopped treating Diana's business like a family investment. No emotion, no revenge, just natural consequences. Tyler learned something important from his birthday party and the aftermath. He learned that his mother will stand up for him, that he doesn't have to accept being treated badly, and that sometimes walking away is the strongest thing you can do. As for me, I learned that funding someone else's dream at the expense of your child's dignity is never worth it. Blood doesn't make family, and money can't buy respect. But protecting your kid from people who hurt him, that's what real family does. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube, this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.